today's webinar, we are going to talk a little bit about Kivu Immigration Law, the community in which we're in, and more specifically about the brand new Kivu Law Fellowship. There will be time for Q&A at the end, but if you have any pressing questions, feel free to ask at any time. Kivu Immigration Law was my brainchild, founded at the very beginning of COVID in early 2020. I had been working at a nonprofit in my hometown of Worthington, Minnesota, providing immigration legal services to low-income immigrants and refugees. And it was astounding to see where there remained large gaps in legal services. And I applied for a fellowship called an Initiator's Fellowship specifically to open a social enterprise. That's what the fellowship was all about. And I was able to receive the fellowship and open a social enterprise law firm aimed at addressing the existing legal gaps that immigrants in Southwest Minnesota in particular faced. But I really thought of this as a model that could grow beyond my small little hometown. So what's unique about Kivu Law is that it's an LLC. It's a for-profit law firm, but it has a two-pronged mission, and that's what makes it a social enterprise. So the first prong is to provide high-quality legal services, just like any traditional law firm would aim to do. But the second prong is all about community engagement, awareness building, education, helping people understand how immigration law and policy at the national level trickles down and impacts our local communities. There's such a disconnect that we see between like what people's understanding is of what happens in Washington and then the impacts that our friends and neighbors and maybe us personally experience. So Kivu Immigration Law just incorporates right into our mission a lot of community engagement. And that's what makes working at Kivu Law so different. Like staff attorneys are out and about in the community on a regular basis, speaking to students inside school buildings, hosting gatherings for people to gain accurate and solid information. For example, Minnesota recently just passed a law called Driver's License for All, and now immigrants, regardless of legal status, are able to obtain a driver's license. And this is huge. It impacts our community significantly, but there's a lot of fears for immigrants to come forward and submit that application for a driver's license, let alone all of the hoops that they have to go through in order to put together an application that will be approved. So Kivu Law is taking the lead on providing discounted translations for individuals who need birth certificates translated, for example, because we see otherwise like a lot of people get scammed and have to pay exorbitant fees to get a document translated. We're providing guidance on assisting people with like where to go for driver's education. What documents do you need before you make an appointment online? How do you make an appointment online? So just being a resource in the community, and this is just one recent example of how Kivu Law really does engage as a social enterprise on the ground level, in addition to like providing full legal representation to the clients we represent. I mentioned before that Kivu Law was founded to kind of like address gaps, and Kivu Law remains the only private law firm in all of southwestern Minnesota that will handle an immigration case. So what that also results with is that we're kind of a general practice when it comes to immigration law. We handle a lot of different types of immigration cases, ranging from employment-based cases, humanitarian-based cases, and family-based cases. So I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but these here are photos of our office building. We own a large office space on Main Street in downtown Worthington. And it's this like very old, open, like industrial type building with a lot of natural character. And we've tried to preserve that the best we can while still having a bit of a modern touch, making it comfortable and accessible for people. So our attorneys are able to work in these glass pods that you see, and we have an open and inviting reception area as well shown here. The bulletin board in the bottom left corner is called our welcome wall. While people are waiting in the reception area, they can write notes of welcome and put them on the board, and it's a really nice, like constantly recycled message board, a welcome board. And there's like there are job postings, there are people will come and hang up posters advertising events that are taking place in the community. So it's just it's nice and very dynamic and a vibrant place. Kivu Law is situated in Worthington, Minnesota. Worthington is a small town with 15,000 people, and it's where I grew up. So it's a special place near and dear to my heart, but most people have never heard of it because it is a small agricultural town. What is honestly like kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's about 30 miles from South Dakota and fewer than 10 miles from Iowa. So right in the bottom left corner of the state. It's not what one would typically think of a rural small town because it's extremely diverse. And what results because of its like excellent diversity is that it's a really, really vibrant, growing city. So more than half of Worthington's households speak a language other than English at home. And the Worthington Public Schools are like around 80% students of color. So it's a great place I chose to raise my family in Worthington because I think it's a great place for kids to grow up and just be surrounded by people from different cultures, different walks of life, and a place where you can really appreciate one another's differences. Worthington is situated around Lake Okabena. So it's a recreational lake that's about like 5 miles around. And a lot of our like outdoor activities are based like around this lake, trails, parks. There's a lot of activities when the weather is nice and you can be outside. Summer is definitely the best time of year in Worthington, and winter is definitely the worst. So it does get cold, but that shouldn't deter anyone from considering Worthington as a place to live for a couple of years because it's certainly tolerable. And we're all in it together. And so there are some good activities and things to do in the winter time, even when the weather is brutal. A photo here is shown like the Kivu booth at the Worthington International Festival. This is a festival that is held every July and brings thousands of people to town to celebrate cultures. And we've always had a booth. We have a spinning wheel, which you can see, and on each color represents a question on the naturalization test. When someone is applying for citizenship, there's 100 questions that people have to study. And so we've just selected a few questions to put on the wheel. People can spin the wheel, and if they answer the question correctly, they get a prize. So it's incredible like how good students are at answering the questions because they're civics questions, but adults don't have a clue. And it's humbling for some people when they recognize that they can't answer the questions, but this is what is expected of permanent residents when they are working towards becoming a U.S. citizen. Let's move to the next slide here. So I mentioned that we are kind of a general immigration law firm, meaning that we represent a lot of different types of cases under one roof. Many boutique law firms in large like metro areas have what was kind of like the luxury to specialize in one specific area of immigration law. So maybe they do H-1B visas for corporations that want to bring international talent to their company. Other boutique law firms will specialize only in removal defense, like litigation. Well, we do all of that and more at Kivu Immigration Law simply because like we want to be able to meet the needs of this community so that individuals aren't forced to drive over 200 miles or 3 hours to the next nearest immigration lawyer. We have to work really hard to ensure that what we do offer is at a very high quality level. So we are constantly learning and constantly striving to expand our own knowledge in many different areas of immigration law. That's something that I honestly love about the job. I can't imagine working in a field of like in an area of law where the law is stagnant. I think it would be extremely boring. And in immigration law, that is never the case. The policies are changing seemingly every day, and sometimes good, sometimes bad. But keeping track of everything is exciting, and I think it's very important that Kivu Law can be a voice of like accuracy and honesty when it comes to changing policies and how it impacts individuals. So we sort of like we ride the waves when it comes to changing immigration law and policy, and that is very much like a big part of what we do and the role that Kivu Law has in our region. So while you can kind of divide immigration law into 3 different tracks to permanent residency, like shown here, family, employment, and humanitarian, we also can kind of divide up our cases into categories. And this here shows the current breakdown of the types of cases that Kivu Law has handled in the past 3.5 years. You can see that we handle a large amount of family-based cases and humanitarian-based cases, and a smaller but still sizable amount of employment-based cases. This means that most of our clients are individuals, and a few of our clients are like regional employers working to hire international workers. But the vast, vast majority of these 1,000 cases are individuals who are seeking an elevation in their immigration status. So, you know, we represent hundreds of asylum seekers. Some of them are applying for asylum affirmatively, and others are applying defensively. If an asylum seeker is in removal proceedings, they must apply for asylum defensively, unless they are an unaccompanied child. So there's certainly caveats, but we also represent many unaccompanied children in asylum, but also special immigrant juvenile status. And that's a case type that's available for unmarried children under age 21 who've been neglected, abused, or abandoned by at least one parent. SIJS, as we call it, is one of the surest ways for young people to gain a pathway to permanent residency. So if someone is eligible for SIJS, like we run with it because it's such a solid opportunity for those who are under 21. We represent many U.S. citizens and lawful permanent residents in family petitions for their loved ones. About half of the beneficiaries for family petitions already live in the United States, and about the other half live abroad. Some have been in the United States before. Many have never been to this country, but they're seeking family unity, and there's a lot of motivation to do everything we can to help bring families back together. One of the most exciting parts of my job is when our clients reach the point of naturalization and I am able to accompany them to their naturalization interview. This is something that only attorneys have the privilege to do. And so that's something that Kivu Law Fellows would have the opportunity to do as well in their role as attorneys. And that is sitting beside an individual as they are interviewed by an immigration officer for naturalization. The interview is composed of 3 parts: the civics test, which has 100 possible questions, a reading and writing test, and then going through the naturalization application that has already been filed, just to ensure that everything in the application is correct and up to date. The attorney's role is really not to say anything, kind of just be an observer to keep tabs on things unless something is going wrong. And sometimes it is that role of an advocate that is critically important to ensure that the client has that fair opportunity to demonstrate that they are indeed eligible and qualified for naturalization. This is just kind of a map showing the countries of birth for our clients who we represent. So you can see here that most of our clients are from Central America and Mexico, but we do also represent a sizable amount of number of clients from East Africa and Southeast Asia, particularly Ethiopia in Africa and Myanmar in Southeast Asia. These are generally refugees and who are seeking naturalization or doing family petitions. And then the Central American clients who we have are our asylum seekers, our special immigrant juveniles, and some in removal defense. And that's, generally speaking, there's certainly a lot of overlap, and it's certainly not a hard and fast rule. But just to kind of give you a sense of who we represent and some of the demographics behind that. Does anybody have any questions about the law firm or like where we are situated in Minnesota in our community before I move into the Kivu Law Fellowship itself?
I guess I have just a quick question. So I imagine your main...
You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Maybe others can hear?
Okay, I apparently they can hear me, but not you. But Garrett, if you can pass on the question, or
okay.
Maybe you can answer.
Sorry, technical difficulty on my part. I can hear you now.
Okay, cool. I imagine your main clientele, I understand, is in Worthington. Do people from outside of Worthington also seek Kivu Law? Like it's worth.
They do. Our initial intent in founding a law firm in Worthington was to serve the local population.
Right.
But about 25% of our clients are actually from outside Nobles County, outside where Worthington is situated. And we do a decent amount of like completely virtual representation. So we have clients in about 15 different states and a few different countries. So it's and that expansion to kind of a broader clientele has been simply word of mouth. Like we're not advertising in other states. We don't have a presence in other states. But I think when you have a strong reputation and outcomes can follow your efforts, then that word of mouth then passes on to people, and our clientele grows from there.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
So the Kivu Law Fellowship experience. This is a brand new fellowship. We are excited to offer it. I personally have received 2 fellowships, and both of them have been very formative to my career trajectory and career growth. I received a fellowship right after I graduated from college to work in Yale's Office of International Affairs. So the Woodbridge Fellowship was a one-year fellowship to give Yale College graduates kind of an inside look to university administration and report to a high-level administrator. And that was a very eye-opening experience. And that one-year fellowship actually turned into a 6-year career at Yale, where I was able to establish a program and a department. And I grew in my role from fellow to director of this initiative that I had the opportunity to create. And it was during those 6 years that I went to law school at night. I was in a 4-year JD program at UConn. And it was in my final year that I realized that my original intention of going to law school just to get an advanced or terminal degree and continue working in university administration wasn't actually what I would use that law degree for. I ended up having more worthy ambitions, I feel, in the long run, and decided to take that degree back home and work in immigration law specifically. And then the second fellowship I received was about 1.5 years after I moved back home. And that was the Initiators Fellowship that gave me the launch pad I needed to open Kivu Law. And specifically what that did was it came with that fellowship came with mentorship and some funding, $30,000 a year for 2 years, to be able to, it gave me the kind of the security I needed to quit my job and start something brand new from scratch. And that 2-year fellowship, the way it was structured was to really enable an individual's professional growth, regardless of where their starting point was. And so I was in a cohort with people from who had very different career experiences and also very different ideas for social enterprises. So I learned a ton from them, and I essentially just really value this concept of a fellowship and think that it can be implemented in this space of Kivu law. So it's different from that of a standard staff attorney position, because it's going to be structured in a way where you're getting exposed to a lot of different types of cases. You're getting experience working directly with clients, and you're going to really get to know a community as well. It's not going to be, I don't expect it to be a community that one already knows, but Worthington it's small enough where I think within 2 years, a person can really get a good sense of it and sense trends in this sort of microcosm that could be extrapolated to a larger society. Kivu Law has a successful summer internship program for college students, and we've seen that it's a good environment for learning. And I think on a longer scale and with law graduates, there's only going to be greater opportunity for professional growth and a development of expertise in a very exciting legal field. The opportunities through the Kivu Law Fellowship will include direct representation and also opportunities to gain trial advocacy skills through litigation and immigration court, if that is something the fellow desires. And I say that with a big if, because when I was in law school, I was on the transactional law side of things. I had no interest in trial advocacy. And it wasn't until I was on the ground seeing the need that I was okay, I can do this and I will do this. But there's such a wide range of case types that the fellows will be able to develop a niche if they wish, or remain a very general practitioner. And as long as they're able to grasp each and every type of case, gain that experience. I'm a big believer in playing to one's strengths and interests. Keep that curious drive alive, and really work with individuals to create work plans that are exciting and productive to each and every employee. So eligibility for this fellowship, the idea is that it would be for individuals who are graduating this coming spring or have graduated in the past 2 years. The hope is that the fellow will take the bar exam after law school, or if for someone who has already graduated, to have already taken the bar exam. The fellows must have authorization to work in the United States, at least projected for the 2 years that the fellowship will take place. And when selecting fellows, selecting any employee at my law firm, to date, I have been the hiring person of each and every person at my law firm, and I think that's just I have that luxury because our firm is still very small, and I get to be the one to go through the interview and hiring process with each individual. I look for fit, like passion and attitude. Like, is a person's passion and attitude going to be a good fit for Kivu Law? And that's critical. And that's because it takes a lot of passion to do what we do. And it's important that we can work cohesively as a team. So skills come with experience, and I don't expect Kivu Law Fellows to come with significant experience in immigration law. It's great if a fellow has taken immigration law courses, or has participated in a clinic, or has done some volunteer work in like the sphere of immigration law, but it is not a requirement for this position. I also, like, when thinking about what skills not specific to immigration law are important in this role, and I would say the ability, good writing skills, critical thinking and problem solving, and attention to detail. And that's probably pretty standard across the legal field. But those truly are the skills that you're going to be putting into practice each and every day. So the application components, it's simple, and I've intentionally kept it simple. So I would like to see an updated resume, an unofficial version of your law school transcript, and a statement of interest. A statement of interest can essentially be a cover letter describing why you are interested in this position and what skills or experiences would make you a standout candidate. That's kind of the idea. Introduce yourself to me. I really enjoy reviewing applications and interviewing people because it's an opportunity to gain perspective and have conversations with individuals who are often like very, very like-minded, or not, but it's still enjoyable all the less. The deadline to apply for this fellowship is November 26th at 11:59 Central Time. So that gives people the Thanksgiving weekend to get application materials ready if they're last minute appliers, like I think many people are. So the interview process will review applications in December, and January-ish is kind of hoping when we would have this have this wrapped up. Like I mentioned, this is the first year, so we are sort of testing the waters and the timeline. We're trying to match up with what are some general like trends of when like 3Ls are looking to nail things down, not too early and not too late, to kind of just fit right in, and try and make this an opportunity that 3Ls can consider alongside any other opportunities that they're eager to explore. So with that, are there any other questions? Here is my contact information. It's also online. If you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to contact me. If you do decide to apply, you will also submit your application directly to me, and I will let you know that I receive it. Thank you so much for joining this webinar this evening. I appreciate your interest in this fellowship, and I really wish you all the best as you consider your career after law school and beyond. So take care. Bye, everyone.